And look, we have several bills that have been percolating that we've been working on for some time. And you do have a handful of Republicans here and there who work with us. But the reality is we've had it. Enough is enough. And so we're starting this End Corruption Caucus to say clearly, unequivocally, that Congress has to do its job and take back our democracy and restore faith in government for the people of this country.
Congressman, I want you to take a listen to what the Vice President of the United States had to say. This was from May 19th at the White House, really defending the president against accusations of insider trading.
The president doesn't sit at the Oval Office on his computer on his Robinhood account buying and selling stocks. That's absurd. He has independent wealth advisors who manage his money. He is a wealthy person. He has had success in business. He's not making these stock trades himself. All of us believe that nobody should be taking proprietary information gained from public service and buying and selling stocks. We want to ban that process.
So I want to ask what might seem like a nutty question, but if I take the vice president at his word, that latter half of what he said, do you think you can find partnership with more Republicans, perhaps even with this White House, in actually trying to tackle some of the mechanisms by which we see corruption run rampant to this point, this idea of insider trading or folks inside this administration having insider information that they are then leveraging to their own benefit?
You know, Alicia, I don't know if I can take J.D. Vance at his word ever, but I will tell you that we'd love to partner with the administration and with our Republican colleagues on a stock trading ban for members of Congress and for others with access to inside information. But Mike Johnson has killed the effort. Mike Johnson just the other day did a press conference in which he said that he was against a stock trading ban. And so long as he's the Speaker of the House, we're going to have a hard time. And of course, doing a discharge petition, which is the other mechanism that we've got, would require 218 members to sign, and we're going to work towards that. We have an active discharge petition on the floor right now. The reality is so many members of Congress use the knowledge and the information that they get as a result of their service, and rather than serving the people in their communities, they serve their own self-interest and they line their pocketbooks. But no one is guiltier of that than the President of the United States. We saw in just one quarter nearly 4,000 trades, and we saw many multi-million-dollar trades with companies that have direct business before the federal government. So if J.D. Vance is really that naive, man, I don't know what to tell him.
Well, he's not that naive, Congressman. In fact, you know, that effort that you just spoke about that was killed by the Speaker of the House was killed because Donald Trump wanted it killed. That's why it didn't go anywhere. Donald Trump doesn't want to advance this. J.D. Vance was out there fronting while Donald Trump is sitting in the Oval Office punting. He doesn't. They're not. That's, you know, hey, yeah, we're really to work with you. And, you know, Trump's on the phone with the Speaker going, nah, we ain't doing that. That's not what we're about. I want
Michael,
to, though.
He's the worst swamp creature of them all, Michael. He said he's going to drain the swamp, and the exact opposite has happened. Things are worse than they have ever been. It's disgraceful.
And that's exactly the point, which is why I appreciate very much the effort on corruption and bringing this particular caucus into focus for the American people. But I would also, just looking at it strategically, sir, say this. You want your work to be aligned in such a way that every time the American people hear the word corruption, they think about their own personal economies. They think about their own personal situation. This corruption is preventing them from achieving the American dream. Trump's corruption is preventing them from having lower gas prices. Trump's corruption is preventing them from being able to access, markets so that they could maybe buy a little bit of stock to set aside for their grandkids. Donald Trump's corruption and focus on ballrooms and slush funds is preventing them from being able to afford the basics that they need. You make that link for the American people, because you're already there on the affordability piece. The Americans, they buy what you've said about affordability. Now the next piece is, how do you link that to this corruption argument in such a way that every time they hear the word, They think about how this has kept them from having what they want.
Well, the best part of what you said, Michael, as a political argument, it's great, but it's also the truth. It's the reality of the situation. I see it every day. The dark money influence in our politics means that Congress cannot come together and solve problems in a reasonable way for people to improve the quality of their lives. And that's why I went to Washington, D.C. in the first place. And Citizens United was a horrific decision, but made even worse by the most corrupt president in the history of our country, and it's really not even close.
On January 8th, Congressman, the president told the New York Times that basically he has no issue with his family's foreign business deals, and also that nobody else cared and he's allowed to do it. Even though the White House says Trump and his family have no conflict of interest. I put that on the table. And then I had this slush fund situation, nearly $1.8 billion of American taxpayer money that I still don't understand how this is legal. In my home state of Nebraska, Mike Flood had a town hall last night in Norfolk, and I just want you to take a listen to some of the voters in the Great Plains.
Last year you talked about fiscal conservatism. How is that fiscally conservative?
I have never approved that. I do not think one penny of any fund should ever go to any January 6th insurrectionist that was in the Capitol on January 6, 2021. I do not think we should be creating a fund for people that commit physical violence against law enforcement.
The next three questions here are all the same. It's what do you think about the new slush fund of tax dollars that Trump has
and I think we addressed that probably about 20 minutes ago.
Is Congressman Flood a candidate for the anti-corruption caucus, sir?
Well, maybe I'm willing to have a discussion with him and any Republican that's willing to stand up to the obvious wrongdoing with that slush fund. But it is sort of disappointing, Simone. I sit on the House Appropriations Committee. We have the power of the purse under Article 1 of the Constitution. And just the other night, I offered an amendment that every Republican in the committee voted against, and that was to preclude any of the slush fund money going to pay them, the members of Congress themselves. Now, a couple of my Republican friends took a walk and didn't participate in the vote, but everyone else voted that they were against my amendment. They wanted to remain eligible. And then it was even reported by Politico that one of them explicitly is going to seek out funds from the slush fund. So, look, I am willing. The water is warm for those of us that actually want to stand for what's right and ethical in government. And there are far too few willing to stand up to this president because they're afraid or because, whatever rationalization they have. It's really pathetic. And we deserve better from our public servants.